Hi, my name's Charlotte. I work for Operation Wallacea. I've spent a few years out on our site in Honduras. I now work on our site in Indonesia, so I'll see any of you are coming to Indonesia this year. And I'm going to give you some tips on what sort of kit to bring. So everybody has their own specific kit list. Please refer to the kit list for your country. But what I'm going to do is go through some general things that most people will need, what sort of quality you need, where you can get it from as well. So just to start off with, first thing we're going to look at is your rucksack. Most people are going to need a rucksack. 60 to 70 litres is normally ideal. Another thing to look out for are the armbands. You make sure that these are nice and thick and padded, take some pressure off your shoulders, and also that this large rucksack has a waistband on it as well. Most of your weight should be carried on your hips from your rucksack and it'll take pressure off your shoulders. So that's something to think about. This is one piece of equipment that I would say that you could invest in. So some of this equipment I'm going to give you kind of tips on how to get it cheaply and the kind of quality you need. You don't always need really high quality stuff, but rucksack is up to you. If this is going to be an experience that you do once, then don't spend so much money on it. If it's something that you're going to do every single year, then maybe think about investing more in it. For instance, my rucksack cost me about £100, but I've used it for 10 years, and so it was well worth it for me. These 60 to 70 litre rucksacks you can get from Tesco's, are selling them for £25 at the moment. They're also selling ones that are made by Vango, which are a really good kind of trekking make, and they're selling those for £30, so you don't have to spend a huge amount of money on it. So it's something for you to weigh up. Next thing we'll talk about is your hand luggage or your small rucksack. You need some sort of day sack. This is kind of 20 to 30 litres. You've probably got one in your cupboard or you can borrow one from someone. You don't necessarily need to buy a new one. This is normally just for you to put in kind of equipment, any water, your lunch, anything like that, but just small things for you to carry around during the day. So it doesn't need to be particularly well structured like this one does. It needs to be about 20 to 30 litres. I would also say that I would use this for your hand luggage when you go on the plane as well. It'll cut down on your baggage. It's just the right size for putting in hand luggage. So that's your second thing. That's all of the bags that you should need. Next thing, we'll just talk about sleeping stuff. Again, this depends on which country you're going to. There's three things you're potentially going to need. Firstly is a roll mat. So check your kit list and see if you need a roll mat. You can have a roll mat or a thermarest. It's basically to make it more comfortable when you're sleeping in a tent or possibly sleeping in a hammock. You can get these from any sort of outdoor shops. Roll mats will be cheaper than thermarests, so again it's weighing up which one's best for you. Roll mat will probably cost you about £10. Thermarests are more like 30 upwards. They're kind of like a small inflatable mattress. But if you're doing a lot of this in the future, it might be worth investing in that. Not all sites you need one, so check your kit list. Second thing is sleeping bag. Sleeping bags will depend on how cold your site is. It may be that you need one, might not. They all come in kind of seasons, so have a look at which season is best for you. You can have 1 to 4 seasons, which will be very thick ones that mean that you can stay out in really, really cold conditions. Or you may have a lightweight one. This is a lightweight one that I've got for Indonesia, which is just a 2-season sleeping bag. I got mine from Sports Direct and this cost me £15 and packs down really nice and small. That's something to bear in mind. The thicker it is, probably the bigger and the heavier it's going to be, so that's something for you to weigh up. And the last thing is a sleeping bag liner. Most sites will say to bring a sleeping bag liner. It's basically a sheet that you can sleep in. It will keep your sleeping bag nice and dry and clean. You can get these from outdoor shops. Sometimes they're silk and impregnated with mosquito repellent. What I actually use is a single duvet cover. I think it's exactly the same thing. So rather than spending £30, £40 on a sleeping bag liner, I take a single duvet cover, which costs me a couple of quid, or one that I just find in the cupboard. So up to you there. So you'll need at least one of those 3 things for your sleeping. Next thing is Ziploc bags. I would definitely recommend to take a number of different sized Ziploc bags and to pack all of your equipment away in these. It will mean that they'll stay dry. It will also keep everything organised. And when things get dirty, when you get your washing, pop it in your Ziploc bag, zip it away, and then you can put it in your rucksack and you don't need to worry about it until you get the time to be able to wash it or if you're taking it home. It just means that the rest of your equipment will all stay nice and dry. Another good tip is to keep your electrical equipment in one of these. I would save up any silica gel packets that you have. So these are those little packets that you find in handbags or in shoe boxes. You put those in there and they absorb liquid. So it'll stop liquid going into any of your cameras or any other equipment that you decide to bring with you, any kind of electrical equipment. Pop that in there, zip your bag up and that'll keep it nice and dry. Next thing is a pair of boots. So most people will need a pair of boots. Most sites you'll need a pair of boots. These do not need to be expensive. I've never spent more than £25 on a pair of boots. Most of mine have come from Amazon, or the last ones I got were TK Maxx. There were regatta boots I bought that were about £70 and reduced to less than 20, and I'm still wearing those. I've had those for about 3 years. Tips is to have good ankle support, so have a high boot with good ankle support, and also to have something that's fairly breathable. Gore-Tex is a material that's breathable, so it allows kind of liquid in and out, and they dry very quickly. But Gore-Tex is a make, so just any kind of breathable type material. It doesn't have to be Gore-Tex as such. That will hike the price up. The other thing, the most important thing really, is that these boots are worn in. Do not come out onto site in a pair of boots that you haven't worn before. Your feet will be covered in blisters and it will wreck any of the trekking and things that you do. So wear those in. That is the most important part of your pair of boots. Next thing are a pair of walking sandals. So you may need these, you may need just some flip-flops, and you may have recommendations to bring wellies instead of these things. So check your kit list. If you need some walking sandals, if you're going to one of our dive sites, you'll need them to walk out to the boats. If on some of our terrestrial sites, you'll need them to be walking in the rivers, maybe around camp, going to the river to have a wash, anything like that. Again, that shouldn't be expensive. Mine were less than £10 from Sports Direct. They are better than just a pair of flip-flops. You can see that they've got some kind of, they've got strapping around the back, which means they stay on your feet. If you go into the sea or go into a river in a pair of flip-flops, you will lose them very easily. If you're out doing amphibian walks and that sort of thing, the last thing you want to be doing is worrying about where your shoes have gone. So I would recommend trekking sandals. Clothing. So I'm going to go through a series of different clothing that you would need, but general advice about clothing is don't spend a lot of money on it. Don't bring anything that you really like, because it might get muddy or dirty. And everything to be fairly lightweight, I would say, and breathable is a very good idea, and fairly loose fitting so you're quite comfortable in it. Okay, so lightweight trousers, those sort of things are a really good idea. Trousers will, if you have full length trousers, it will stop you getting bitten by mosquitoes or leeches or getting scratches from any of the plants. And you can also get these ones that you can zip off. So these ones have got a little zip here, and then they make a pair of shorts for when maybe you're going to the marine site or in a slightly warmer condition, or you don't need to worry about covering yourself up. So those trousers like that are a very good idea. T-shirts, kind of lightweight t-shirts, fairly neutral colours to try and not scare off all the wildlife is a really good idea. Check with your kit list whether you need to cover your shoulders up, or if it's recommendations to keep your arms and shoulders covered from cultural reasons, also from reasons of any kind of insects or anything like that you want to make sure you don't get bitten. A fleece, some kind of fleece or hoodie, some kind of jumper is probably a good idea. Some of your sites will be very warm, that they might get colder at night time, and also if you're plane journeys as well, as it tends to be the air conditioning is quite cool, so it's nice to have some sort of hoodie or something. And also when you come back into the UK, I know it should be summer here, but it will probably still be cold, so that's worth putting something like that in your rucksack. Next things are socks and underwear. These are the things that I would say make sure that you have lots of them with you. The last thing you want to run out with, if you run out of clothes, you can walk around in muddy trousers. You don't want to be walking around in unclean socks or underwear or anything like that. So make sure you pack lots and lots of socks and underwear. With the socks, lots of people will get trekking socks. You can have trekking socks. The trekking socks have got 2 layers in between them, so they move like this so that you don't get blisters on your ankles. What I tend to do is wear 2 pairs of socks, and it does exactly the same thing. Trekking socks are about £8 a pair, or you can get a big pack of socks from any kind of supermarkets or anything like that. It'd be much cheaper, but up to you what you feel most comfortable with. Nightwear is definitely something I would recommend, so you have a separate set of nightwear. This will mean that you've always got clothes that are dry that you can go and put on before you go to sleep, and you also have something you can wear if you're getting up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet, if you're sharing a room or sharing a tent, you're in a hammock going through camp, you need some sort of nightwear. I would also recommend that you have one outfit that you keep separate from everything else. You keep nice and clean and dry, away from everything else that you wear on your plane ride out and your plane ride home. It'll make you a lot more comfortable on your way home, and everybody on the plane will be really pleased that you don't smell of the forest or the bush wherever you've been. So it's quite a nice idea to keep that out of the way. It makes you, comfortable if you can't wash any of your clothes while you're out on site. Swimwear. You may need swimwear if you're going diving, but you may also need it for one of your terrestrial projects if you don't have showers on your projects and you're actually going to have to go and wash in one of the rivers. Again, have a think about kind of cultural things. For instance, in Indonesia, you have to wear a swimming costume, not a bikini, and you still need to keep your shoulders covered. So board shorts and t-shirts to be able to wear down to the rivers are a good idea. Some of the sites it's not a problem, so check your kit list. Next thing is a towel. This is one of the things that I would highly recommend, is that you do not bring a normal towel from home. they will get very wet and very heavy, and you won't be able to dry them, and most likely, unless you're going to one of the marine projects where it's really sunny, you may be able to dry it. Still, these kind of lightweight travel towels, you can get one of them on Amazon for less than £10. They dry very quickly, kind of microfiber towels is what they're called. Or just bring a sarong. It'll cover you up and keep you dry, and it will dry very easily as well. So something like the one that I've got on the table here, just a sarong to be able to cover yourself up. Either of those would be much better than a big towel. Some sort of waterproof. Pack a bag, they're one of these ones that you can pack away is a really good idea. Not one of the ones that you'd wear here in the UK. It does not need to be thick. It doesn't need to have any kind of lining inside of it. If you wear anything like that, you're going to sweat inside of your waterproof, and that's not the point of it. I would really recommend bringing a poncho. Ponchos are great because you can just grab them out and put them over whatever you're doing. So it'll go over the back of your rucksack, keep your rucksack dry. If you're out doing a survey, you can hide your data sheets underneath it, and it will keep everything dry. And they're usually really, really cheap as well. Mine was about £4 from Amazon. You can get them when you go to Alton Towers or anywhere like that. There's Max that they give you before you go down a log flume. One of those would be absolutely ideal. Next thing I'm going to talk about is carrying water. This is very, very important, is that we always ask whenever you leave camp that you have 2 litres of water with you. So you can carry this in a number of different ways, and it depends what sort of project you're going on. If you're going on one of the marine projects mainly, or you're not doing a lot of trekking, then just carry them in a water bottle. It'll be absolutely fine. If you're doing a lot of trekking during your expedition, a platypus is a really good idea. So basically you fill this full of water. It's just a kind of a sack that you fill full of water, about 2 litres, and then you have this tap here. So you pop this in your rucksack, and you can drink through this tube as you're walking along. It means you don't have to stop, get your water bottle out, and you can constantly drink as you're going along. So it's quite a nice idea. I got mine from Sports Direct for about £10. Next thing, talk about torches. And again, this depends which site you're going to. A lot of sites you'll need a head torch, and it can be very important that it's a head torch rather than a handheld torch. Because if you're going out on any night surveys, you will need to have your hands free. So if you're walking along the river looking for amphibians, you're going out working with the bat team, you will need to have a head torch so your hands are free. Also, if you're spending any time in any kind of field camps where there isn't electricity, you will need this to be able to find your way around camp. This is the second thing where I think that it's potentially a good idea to invest some money in. Bear in mind, if you're out on the survey, you want to be able to see the animals, so you need a decent head torch. This one's made by LED Lenser. This is my one. This has a lumen rating of 170. Would say that you need over 100, basically, would be a very good idea. This one is a particularly good one, and this cost about £35 from Amazon. Petzl also make really good head torches as well. Make sure you bring spare batteries. Alright, there's just a few more things to go through on the kit list. And I want to kind of highlight here that there are a few things that you could share in a group. So rather than bringing one of everything that I'm going to talk about, get in groups of 3 or 4 and try and share this between you. For instance, things like big bottles of shampoo or any of your kind of toiletries, anything like that. Think how you can share it, because that just means you'll be able to carry less on your way out there, and it'll cost you less as well. Okay, so a few other things to think about. Personal first aid kit. This is really important. You don't need to bring a huge amount of medical things with you. We have doctors and nurses, we have medics out on site, and they'll have their own kit. But a few things that are personal, so things that are very, very important. Rehydration sachets, I would say, that are an absolute must for people. They're basically full of sugars and salts, and you put them into your water, drink them down, and it'll rehydrate you. Lots of people don't drink enough when they're out on site, or you get tired, and they're really, really good, so have one of those. Any plasters, headache tablets, anything like that. Okay, get you over your blisters if you have any. They're really good to put in here. Also, any kind of your own medical stuff. But make sure you put there any tablets, any medicines that you take. Make sure you put those in your little personal medical kit. Keep these on you. Toiletries. Toiletries, again, keep it fairly basic, but you need, most places you're going to need biodegradable soap. So that's something for you to think about, is that because we're out in the environment, we don't want to leave anything there that isn't going to break down. So make sure you get biodegradable stuff. You can get that from Amazon, or I go to a shop called Lush. All of their stuff is biodegradable and still really nice. So that is something I would definitely recommend. Specific things within your kind of toiletries, suntan lotion, definitely suntan lotion, factor 30 plus please. It really spoils your trip if you get sunburn. I've known students to do it before, and it's a really, really bad idea. And you can't really get, in a lot of countries abroad, you can't get suntan lotion like the stuff we can get here that's strong enough. So make sure factor 30 plus. You may well need insect repellent. You can use DEET, which is very, very effective, but also be careful of that because it's quite corrosive on things like plastic. Or you can get things like Jungle Formula. There are other ones like Citronella that are more natural that you could use, but mosquito repellent is definitely something to think about. Hand gel. This is a really good thing. Antibacterial hand gel. Whichever site you go to, your conditions are probably going to be more basic than you're used to here, and the sanitation levels will not be the same as they are here. So hand sanitizer is a really good idea. Use it throughout your journey and throughout your trips. It will just make sure you get rid of any bugs or anything that are on your hand. If you go into any of our kind of forest projects or anywhere where you think your feet might get wet, talcum powder is such a good idea. Pop it in your boots at night time, all over your feet after you've got out of a shower, stop you getting any sort of fungal infections, that sort of thing on your feet. So definitely a really, really good idea. So have a think about how you can kind of share those around in a group. I'm also just next going to talk about things that are dive specific. So this won't apply to a couple of sites, depending on where you're going. If you are going to be diving or snorkeling, look into what you need to wear. Most sites you will need to wear a wetsuit, but look into what that wetsuit means. Some places it's okay to wear a short wetsuit, sometimes you have to wear long ones, sometimes they're 3mm thick, sometimes they're 5mm thick, so please look at your own kit list. And things like rash vests and that sort of stuff you can wear underneath. Some sites you don't need to, the water's warm enough and it's okay for you not to wear a wetsuit, so please check that out on your own kit list. If you do need a wetsuit, you do not need to spend a lot of money on these. This one was £20 and came from Asda Direct, and also Tesco's Direct are really good for them. I found some on Amazon for £17.99 that had been reduced from £60. If you're having any troubles with finding a wetsuit, then let us know and we can direct you to somewhere to be able to get you a good deal. Other things, if you are learning to dive, you need to bring your padding manual. This is something you can get from Opwall. You can buy them yourself if you like to. If you do, then you need to make sure they include your pick card. This is basically the thing we fill in at the end, say you've passed and you get your card that you keep with you. But you need to have this manual. This is specific. Everybody individually needs to have one of these. Your teachers will have order forms to be able to get them from Operation Wallacea if you would like to. This is only if you're learning to dive, if you're doing the open water course. If you're already dive trained, you don't need this, and if you're snorkeling, you don't need this either. Okay, so they're things that are kind of dive specific. The last thing I want to talk about is your hand luggage. I think it's really important to think about what you are putting in your hand luggage. You basically need to make sure you have everything in there that you need for the first few days on your trip, just in case your big luggage, all the rest of the stuff that you've packed, just in case that goes missing. It's unlikely it will happen, but often you're going to be going on a number of different planes on your trip, so it's really a good idea to do that. So the things that I would suggest you need to put in there: toiletries, so you need your own toothbrush, that sort of stuff. Obviously think about the liquid levels that you can put in there. Spare change of clothes, definitely a good idea, ready for you to go out into the forest, the bush, wherever you're going for your first week. Your boots, if you have them. This also will help you with any sort of luggage allowance. So some of the sites, for instance Indonesia, you've got an absolute maximum allowance of 15 kilograms to take on your last plane. Put these boots on your feet and then you don't have to worry about it. It takes that off that luggage amount. Head torch. Head torches are really, really important. So make sure you put that in your hand luggage. And I would also say to put a sleeping bag liner. We have some spare sleeping bags, those sort of things on site, but if you have a sleeping bag liner, that would be really good. And then last but not least, are kind of very personal things. You need to make sure you have your passport. Obviously, I know that probably sounds silly. Any copies of any insurance, any photographs that you need to take for your diving, anti-malarials, anything that's valuable. So things like your phone, your wallet, anything like that, you need to make sure you've got as well. So that's everything that I would recommend to put in your day sack that you will then take out on site. So think about what you would need for those first few days. I think that's pretty much everything I've got to say. Just kind of general tips are thinking about where to get your stuff from. So that Asda, Tesco's, TK Maxx, also Aldi and Lidl, perfect for getting any of this sort of equipment. Please refer to your specific kit list and let us know if you've got any questions. And really, the best thing is just to enjoy your expedition. It's going to be a fantastic trip, have a really good time, and I'll see any of you out in Indonesia.